Alright, so it is March 6th, and I recently watched a YouTube video, and it said there's no better time to buy a C6 Z06 than now. So here we are in my C6 Z06. I've done a couple videos on it already, but we're gonna drive around and we'll talk about this car. So this is a 2 LZ trim package, memory seats, heated seats. Head cam car. And it is got a flex fuel sensor on it right now. And I think I might have too much E in it. So the car, cold start, but C6 Z06. So I will go ahead and start by saying, hands down, best bang for the buck that you can buy for a car you're gonna mod. It's gonna make good power, timeless body style, and you could show up to a Cars and Coffee and I think be respectable versus really you can show up to any Cars and Coffee and it'd be respectable, but I don't want to make this the things I dislike or like about my C6 Z06. One thing with these cars, they're more affordable, so it's a younger demographic that has them now. I'm not a boomer. Technically, I'm a millennial. I had this car now for 10 years this year. But where I'm going with this is, as these cars have been more affordable, people like me have bought them and modded them. They have them in garage queens. So I had a friend who I connected to another, we'll say a Facebook acquaintance. We did a couple events together, shift sector events, and he ended up buying his car, modded it some more, like had the motor pool fully built, pistons, supercharged it, heads and everything already done, and the car ended up burning to the ground. So I'm not saying this could be a basket case, but somebody could be dumping off a project. In this exact instance, I trust the guy that sold the car. He wasn't selling as a basket case, he was just starting a business and had another kid coming, so sometimes you gotta be an adult and let your toys go. When I got this, I daily drove it, but the nav, probably can't see that, like everyone's crack jokes on these navs. It's got an analog gauge, digital heads-up display, but it's very primitive at best. It reminds me of the old like Macintosh green, very block lettering. You can the quality of the interior. This has carbon fiber console, but it is a 2007, so it should have that gray plastic. I put this in. I put the short throw shifter. It's a Chevrolet at the end of the day, but with these cars here, I always thought of this car more as a just a race car. Not speeding, just excessive acceleration, but they're fun. And I did daily drive this, like I was saying, so AC works, heater works, everything works. My car is boosted, fully built, forged internals. And I drive it to work from time to time. It's about a 45-mile round trip. I don't have the mag ride, so it's not too aggressive of a ride as far as just feeling everything in the roads. Plus, these North Carolina roads, there's like 0 shoulders. So like the road I just came off, if I was not paying attention, doing whatever, and drifted off the road, I guarantee you this car would bottom out. I would probably chew up my front cradle, or it would not be good. The radio is off, so my car is heads cam, doesn't necessarily drone, but it's just really deep. So I'm sure we're hearing that right now. And then when I come up to the stoplight, you'll hear it just idle. I've got Henson solid polyurethane motor mounts, so with the cam, the car might rock a little. But the second half of this video, we'll do another ride along in my C7 Z06. So, is right now the best time to buy a C6 Z06? I don't know, man. The used car market is insane. If you could find a guy that you knew, you followed his build, you knew the shop that did his tuning, maybe. I had another friend who sold his C6 Z06, and with the hours of the guy taking delivery, he money shifted and put a softball size hole in the driver's side of his block, and then a baseball and golf ball size hole on the passenger side of his block. I'll see if I can attach that video there too. And I don't think that was shoddy workmanship. If you do something stupid, anything mechanical, anything bad could happen. I've gone back and forth about selling this car a few times when I was like, I want a C7 Z06 now, and obviously I kept it. And I think mainly I kept it because I just had so much money into it. Now that I have both, I really couldn't pick a favorite of the two of them. This car here, the C6 Z06, definitely has more power. It's brutal and raw. The C7's an A8, so it's more refined, it's easier to drive, it's a cruiser's car with still power on demand if you need it. The interior of this thing here, like, we don't even bother talking about it. It is what it is. If you buy a C6 Z06, you're buying it for the performance. We'll jump on Car Gurus and look at the values of these. And a lot of people say, oh, it's got too many miles. Like, my car now has 76,000 miles on it, but it's a 2007, so it's a 15-year-old car. So 76,000 miles, rough math, it's 5,000-ish miles a year, where the average is 12,000. So someone would say 76,000 miles, that's a high mileage, but I don't think so. With my build, my motor might have 3,000 miles on it, and I've only ran Maxima racing oil in it ever since this car's been done. So no Fram oil filters. It's always been Wix XP. I would feel comfortable selling this car to a family member, and if something happened to it, it's on them. I'm gonna run in here real quick, check something out. That is one thing about this car with the front lip being so low. You definitely have to make sure that you don't pull too far in the parking lot or you'll chew something up. Okay, so one thing for sure with these cars, with everything these days having a backup camera in it, all of my 3 other cars have backup cameras, so this thing here does not. And you're so dependent on that backup camera, at least I am, that I get nervous back in the car without it. Something to consider. And then the radio, yeah, it's got Bose speakers in it, but my and like I said, it's a 2007, my 2014 Silverado. The radio actually sounds better than my C7 Z06 radio. And I don't know if my Silverado has Bose in it or not. I mean, my wife's 2010 Infiniti SUV, her radio sounds better too, but with a car like this, you're not buying it to listen to the radio. I recently took a friend for a drive in this, and he asked if it was a good road car, and he said he assumed not, and I was like, no man, actually it really is, because and once again, not a reason to buy a C6 Z06, but you put this thing in 6th gear, you're averaging over 30, sometimes 40 miles per gallon. So can be fuel efficient. This one here being 900 horsepower, it also can be horrible on gas, but is that why you're going to buy a car for one of these? I would recommend not buying a C7 Z06 if you're looking for something more fuel efficient. The other day, I was actually on this road right here, we pulled over here, and a C6 Z01 pulled up next to me, and those are kind of the white buffaloes or the unicorns. He actually had it was a Hennessy, the John Hennessy built for himself. He's got a old placard in it, #1, first one built, beautiful car. But I would rather have a Z01 than a Z06. Me being 37 years old, no tickets or accidents on my record. The insurance isn't all that bad on this. Actually, it's not bad at all. It's actually really good for all 4 of my cars that I have. It's not that much money. I know people with just 2 cars, no performance cars, that pay more than I do. I do have the GPS beacon in it, so you can't play with it to its max potential, or you'll lose your discount. But then you feel the rock, so I guess that's me personally. I dig that. I'm sure some wouldn't. I'm sure if I was to go to a Corvette club, like a true recognized Corvette club, they would see my car probably as like something they wouldn't want to be associated with, because it's loud, it smells. As far as whether if I'm running 91, 93, it smells horrible, so that's why I run that E-blend in it to make it bearable. But as you see, we're just cruising through town right now. I've got the McLeod RXT in it, so it's clutch fill is very comparable to stock. Another thing too, when I first got this car, I was so excited, and I had bought it at sight unseen. And then I started reading about LS7 and valve issues and valve tick. This motor, I've had prior to this 2 Corvettes. One was a 97, so I think it's the first year of the 5th gen LS1. It's like 400 horsepower, I don't know. And then I had an LS3 Camaro. And then I get this LS7, and I'll tell you what, this is a noisy motor, man. I actually had another really good friend of mine that bought one of these. Beautiful car. Victory red, just like mine. He had black wheels on it, just like mine. And Arakopovic, or probably mispronouncing that. $3,000 exhaust. And he ended up selling the car, and he sold the car for a loss too, because he said he was just so scared, because there's so much noise coming from the valve train of this thing that he just didn't want to replace the engine. And I completely understand having replaced the engine in this. It is expensive. Even if you went and had it built yourself and still use GM hypertectic pistons and whatnot, LS7s are expensive. What else? You can watch YouTube videos about balancer wobble, where I don't know if it's a press fit glued together. I was reading, and it will the glue will come out and it'll wobble, or some will back out. That could be something rather expensive to fix. The other thing with these cars too, it's got 2 drain plugs. It's a dry sump. There's a front drain plug and a side drain plug, and one drains the oil that's in the pan under the car, under the engine, and the other one drains the actual dry sump tank itself. I couldn't tell you right now which one's which. But in the 06, 07s, they had magnetic drain plugs. And granted, my engine was failing and it was eating itself alive, so I would always have metal shavings on the drain plug, and it's what scared me. And then I had a needle bearing fail in my rockers, which another common issue in C6 Z06. And I wouldn't say it's a certain year. I mean, GM will tell you it's a certain year, just like the head issue. And when I pulled the heads off of this, when I had the motor, I actually had the heads done as soon as I bought the car, and pretty much all the guides are out of spec. I had bronze guides put in and did a valve job at the time, but I didn't do any CNC porting outside of what was done from, I think it's Chapman cylinder heads that makes them for GM, or made them for GM. The LS7's now discontinued, but they were all out of spec. But I was finding needle bearings on the drain plug, and then would always find just powder metal in the drain plug. So some people will tell you it's normal, some people won't. It just always freaked me out. Since I've had the motor rebuilt, the first time after I did the 300-mile break-in oil, pulled the drain plug, and there was some shavings on there, not as much as there usually was, and then called the engine builder right away. I FaceTimed him, showed him. He says, yeah, everything's got to break in. If it happens again, let me know on the next oil change. And then I ran a synthetic conventional 50-50 blend for another 1,000 miles, and there was hardly any. And then I ran the full synthetic, the Maxima Racing Oil RS 1040, and I haven't had any shavings on it since. I mean, I'm not gonna say there's none, but there's a tiny bit. So some will say that that's metal rubbing against metal. I mean, the bearings, there are a lot of friction bearings, and then with your rings running at cylinder walls, I don't know. I'm not a machinist. I'm a hobbyist mechanic. But if you're gonna get a C6 Z06, I will say that you gotta pay to play, man. So if you're not willing to, or don't have the financial means, that if something breaks, and it's just lawn art at that point, this is probably not the car you want to get. We'll head back to my house real quick, and then we'll get with C7 Z06, and we'll compare the two. Another thing too, I had this car for 10 years. I've had my C7 Z06 for 7 months at this point. I feel like this has a bit, these aren't big cars by any means at all, but I feel like this is a more spacious interior than the C7. And then I've looked inside of a C8, and it looks more, I mean, there's more going on. So maybe it's just your mind tricking you. I don't know. But we'll be on the C7 here momentarily. We'll park this thing, we'll get the camera set up and go from there. Okay, C7 Z06. So right away, it's a nicer interior, right? This car is a 1LZ package, so I don't have the heated memory seats. I'm only gonna assume that you could get cooled seats too, like my Silverado has. I have not been inside of anyone else's C7 Z06 other than my own. This car's quieter, but it's got completely stock exhaust. So one thing I like extremely about this car is both of them have the NPP exhaust, so it's got baffles, so it'll do like a bypass versus going through the mufflers. But this car has mag ride on it, and the exhaust NPP, the valves, I can close them by changing the exhaust setting, or rather the suspension setting. So we're on touring now. You see how quiet it got versus I'll go back to sport. And then the valves, the exhaust valve will open up in NPP. This car doesn't have nav. being the 1LZ, and then the heads-up display is a colored red, white, blue. It's got this. Both cars have a lateral G-force meter in them. The nav on the C6, you can read oil pressure, or you can't read it. It's just a bar graph, if you will. You can read engine temp, engine coolant temp, but the rear view out of this thing here, when I first got it, literally the first day I was driving home, bought the car in Charlotte. I was driving back to Raleigh, and I was initially a little nervous just changing lanes in this thing with the rather than the C6, how it's the completely concave rear hatch where it's all open. This thing here is different, where it's got the side windows and then the back window where it's all flat. So it definitely has blind spots, way worse than the C7 Z06. What else are main differences between the two of them? Oh, another thing too, and don't say read your owner's manual, because I bought this car used and it doesn't have an owner's manual. Surprisingly, for my 2007 C7 Z06, I have the owner's manual, I have the warranty information, and then I've got the owner's DVD with the car, but I don't have it for this one here. But the thing I really like about my C6, it took a long time to get used to with this, is when I would walk away from the car, the horn would beep, the doors would lock on themselves, and the alarm would alarm. This car doesn't do it, or at least I don't know how to do it. I played around in the driver information center for the settings of the car, and I can't find a setting that will do that, and that's where it is on the C6. The mag ride on this thing, if I ever take it to a track, which I want to, it is, when you set it to track setting, and that's without even going into the additional track settings, making it more harsh, it is a stiff ride. But this car also has the Michelin Pilot Super Sport run flats on it, so anything with the run flat, that sidewall's not going to give it all, and you just feel like literally every bump. So like I'm on an asphalt road right now, and you still, it looks smooth, but it is not smooth. You're still feeling the most smallest little like changes in the surface of the asphalt. It's a better interior, but I'll tell you what, the interior still creaks. The target top on this creaks. The C6 Z06 didn't, and at least in my year, did not have a target top option, but I personally have never taken the top off of this, and I think I don't know, I'm not a fan of convertibles in the Corvette. In like the C1, C2, yeah, I would have a convertible, but C5 and newer, I would not have a convertible. I do like the C8 convertible, because it's I don't know exactly what it's called, like a fixed hardtop retractable or something, but it looks like a hardtop, and then it comes and it folds away, and then you have your soft top, kind of like the Italian exotics. So I would probably get it if I got a C8, but I still wouldn't get a convertible. But anyways, and then the other thing too, I did have a C6 Z51 package. It was a 2005, and I was driving home from work one day. I had the target top off of it, and I had some stuff back here, and it just creates a weird, like, comes in aboard a seat, and it like shot all of it out. And one of them was a very important object that I had to go pull over on the side of the highway and try to go find, which I ended up finding it. So if you're gonna take this thing off, you don't want anything loose back there at all, because it'll just blow it out. But you hear those creaks, right? And we're gonna cross some railroad tracks right here, so we hear another creak. I'm not even mad. Chevrolet's flagship car, but it's still a Chevrolet at the end of the day. What else? The seats in this, both of the cars, I'm 6 foot even, and I've got 4 or 5 inches of headroom over me. I fit well in these seats. I've got a 32-inch waist, so if you're on the larger side, you might not like them. They might be a little bit too narrow for you, but they're completely fine for me. But if I was in the market, going back to the whole purpose of the video, if I was in the market for a C6 or a C7, if my budget allowed me to pick between either or, I'm going to be completely honest, I'd buy a C7. And if I had to sell one of my cars, the C6 or the C7, that's just really difficult for me because I've put a lot of money into my C6. But if they were both completely stock cars, I would sell the C6 in a second. The car is just, it's a lot more, the C7 that is, domesticated is the best word I can. It's more refined for sure, and I also wonder too, like, was my C6 before I put the cam in it and modded it all the way, was it just refined and now it's just more brutal? That's how I describe it. It definitely wasn't as refined as this, and even if this was a manual transmission, I still feel like it would be, because I test drove a manual transmission C7 Z06, so I lied. I've been inside of one other one. I think that might have been a 2LZ. I don't remember. But yeah, it's just more refined. The other thing, consideration for either car you're going to buy, if you're buying a manual, these cars have torque tubes, transmissions in the back, so having a clutch installed is very expensive. It's not like a typical Chevy V8 where the transmission, everything's the front, you take off your drive shaft. Like, you are taking off the rear cradle, you're taking off the exhaust. There's a lot of work that goes into it to change a clutch on this. And when I did my C6 Z06's clutch, unfortunately, I've actually done it 3 times. Well, I had it done 3 times. The first time, it was all new parts, but the shop had a speed bleeder put onto it. And the shop called me and said, hey, we buttoned everything up, went to test it, put the clutch to the floor, and it just spewed fluid everywhere. We're gonna pull it back apart, and if it was our fault through the install process, no charge to you, but if it was a defective part, then we're gonna have to order the new part and you're gonna have to pay for the additional labor. And it was one of the lines, the 2 lines come off the slave cylinder, the bleed line, and then the line that goes to the clutch pedal. Let's say allegedly they pinched it and broke it because it was brand new, GM Parts Direct, but they said it was a faulty part, so whatever, I paid for it twice. And then when the motor let go and I had the motor rebuilt, the clutch maybe had 1,000 miles on it at that point, and the friction pucks just looked horrible, absolutely horrible. So we sent it back to McLeod, had the clutch rebuilt, and then reinstalled, and I put the same speed bleeder back on it, but I've had 0 issues since. You got to stay on top of that clutch fluid too, because the clutch fluid on any Corvette gets dirty very, very fast, and that will cause your slave cylinder to go bad. So, not saying get an automatic or a manual transmission, but just something to think about with any Corvette you're going to buy of any generation. But I do know that these, man, I wanted a C7 for 2 years. Like, I wanted it since it came out, but I actually could like buy one for like the last 2 years before getting this, and it just gradually went up in price. And I actually haven't looked in a while about what they cost now. I do know that I bought this, like I said, back in August, and I have the Carfax, whatever data will send you, like, hey, your registration's coming up, or this is the assessed value of your car, or it covers all the history of the maintenance of the car and everything. So you create the account and see what all was done to the car. And this car is actually, it's gone up in value from what I paid for it 6 months ago. Granted, I've had it for 6 months and I put 3,000 miles on it. So once again, I drive my cars probably this one here 4,000 to 5,000, and my red one 5,000 years, the average on it. I bought that car with 48,000 miles on it. So I put 30,000 miles on it in the last 10 years, so 3,000, not a lot. Probably will drive this one more because I drive it to and from work when the weather's nice, and round trip that's about 100 miles for me. But they're holding value, so I'm assuming we'll look at some car gurus, and I'll get some screen grabs and throw it in there and see what they cost. We'll do side by side by the car once I get back home and look at the two of them. I'll tell you what, like a C6 is like timeless, Coke bottle, great curves. It's an awesome driver's perspective looking at the hood. Same thing with this, but then as soon as the C7 parks next to a C6, then the car shows its age. This thing here, I think, parked next to a C8. A lot of people don't like the C8s. The C8s I'm indifferent to. I wouldn't pay what they're selling for. I bought this car after they quit making the 7th generation, so that kind of shows you how eager I am to pay a dealer markup or a market inflation for a newer car, even if it's used. I'm just completely unwilling to do it. But yeah, the C6 shows its age. I don't think this thing necessarily does. There's a lot of people that say that this doesn't look like a Corvette, and the C6 is the last true Corvette. They're all Corvettes. Everyone has their own preference. There's people out there that love C4s, and I'll tell you what, there are certain C4s that I would love to have, but of all the generations, the C4 to me is the least desirable. Overall, yeah, interior wise, just for cabin noise, this thing is pretty quiet. This one has Bluetooth. It's got screen drops, and I have a USB port back there. I've got 2 USB ports in here. My C6 has 0 USB ports, 0 Bluetooth, so it doesn't have hands-free calling. It does have OnStar, as this thing here does. This has a hands-free calling, and then I can Bluetooth or USB my iPhone or Android, whatever you have, and play your music through it. I don't have the track recorder on this. I think that's probably a 2LZ, 3LZ, or maybe just an option. The tire size on this thing here is kind of weird. It's a 35, 25, 20 in the rear. And then the fronts are a 19-inch wheel, as where the C6 has 18s and 19s. So you have a little bit more options for the C6 as far as tires go. This thing here, like, comes with the Pilot Sport Cup 2s, which are a discontinued tire. You can still get them, but they're like, the rears are $800 each. And even my Michelin Pilot Super Sports, they're high fives, because I had to replace one, ran over a nail, and it was right on the sidewall. So that it was a little over $600 with the certificate of replacement from Discount Tire. All right, so now we're home. So yeah, I was saying, size I say these were, they are 335, 25, 20s, and then in the fronts we've got 285, 30, 19s. Versus this, I know this is a 345, 30, 19. These are the Nittos and T05Rs, and then these are the Nitto and T05s, 285, 35, 18. You get a little more sidewall out of this, but just that weird size of that 20-inch rim really locks you into kind of just a few tire options. Both of these cars are incredibly low. So there's the front side skirt that I was talking about when I pulled in the parking lot in the last one. One-piece brake rotor, 3-piece or 3-piston, 2-piston rear calipers. Same up here. Got a 3-piston, 2-piston. These are 2-piece rotors. I've looked because I know that I'm eventually gonna have to replace these front rotors, and nobody has them. They're significantly more expensive. I replaced those rotors probably 4 years ago on that car. So maintenance, people don't talk about that maintenance. Comparing the two of them, this car here is significantly cheaper. I mean, even just changing the oil on this thing here, it's a 8-quart in the dry sump versus that is a 10-quart in the dry sump. But like I said, you look at this guy here, beautiful, beautiful car, timeless curves, and then you look over here, and this thing just looks so much more futuristic than the C6. So, if, like I said, you have the capability and you're able to, I would buy the C7 over the C6. This one here with the aero package, this is a stage 2.5. I think it makes it looks more sinister. I like the curves on this guy here better. It's still got the Coke bottle, but everything's just more sharp. Like the rear fenders, front fenders, everything's kind of rounded on that one, where we've got these harsh body lines. They're very defined. I like it better. This I didn't know. They call it carbon flash. I thought that was actually carbon fiber before I got this car, but that's a vinyl decal. God knows what the person who bought this car paid for that option from GM. Probably significantly more than they should have. But these are both my vets. I couldn't pick one over the other. That's why I have them both. But if I was coming straight off the street and didn't have either one of them, I'm buying a C7 Z06 over a C6 Z06. This here is an awesome car. And if you are looking for a C6 Z06, want a C7, but you just like me, I couldn't wait, or just have a hard time waiting, rather, buy one of these and you absolutely won't regret it. Watch the video, tell me what you guys think, and thanks for watching.